Maybe that's my downfall. Maybe I fall too hard.
So you're playing it by heart.
I do play it by heart. Wow.
Here's some flicks, baby.
Okay, guys. Here we go. We're back for another episode.
Yep.
Today we are talking about Playing by Heart.
Yes.
The 1990 what? 98?
98. December 98.
Romantic comedy?
Yeah.
Would you call it? It's kind of on IMDb it says comedy, drama, romance. So all the things.
But every rom-com says that.
Probably says that. I like to call them dramedies.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the term before?
I use it all the time.
Did I coin that term?
No.
I'm pretty sure I did.
I mean, you could probably try to get the patent, but good luck.
I think I'm going to write the patent office with my typewriter. I don't know why I said write the patent office.
Or typewriter.
Is this the 1940s? Jeez Louise.
Oh, you know what? We can't talk about this without talking about... We got news yesterday morning. You texted me at 8 a.m. that we lost Sean Connery, who's in this film.
It's so weird, Mike, because we chose this movie Wednesday?
Right.
Was it Wednesday?
It was Tuesday or Wednesday,
Okay, Tuesday or Wednesday. We chose this movie. It is now Saturday, the day after Sean Connery died.
It's Sunday.
It is now Sunday, the day after Sean Connery died, which he died on Halloween night.
Well, the day of morning.
Oh my God, we gotta do this again. It is now Sunday.
Right.
Sean Connery passed away Friday night in his sleep. The news broke Saturday morning. We were up early. I was up early.
Surprisingly, I was up at the second because you texted me.
I texted you
and I got the text almost instantly.
And it was like 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And news was breaking all over social media.
It was so early that you caught the story. There weren't even details yet.
Yeah, BBC hadn't even released full details yet.
Right.
And I checked back, and they had released that he had fallen asleep and died in his sleep, which is the way to go.
That's the way I want to go.
That's the way I would want to go.
Yeah.
But Sean Connery, man, he's in the movie we're talking about today, Playing My Heart. He has kind of a minor role. It's pretty big in the story, but it's kind of a minor role in the film. But dude, I can't tell you how many of his movies I love. I mean, including Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Including the countless Bond movies he was in.
Right. He was in 7.
He was in 7 Bond movies. Tell me your thoughts on passing of a legend.
So, I mean, that's one heck of a way to, wake up and start your day. So it kind of mirrors the Chadwick Boseman news. When I got that news, it was like the end of the night.
The loss of Chadwick Boseman.
And so this was the beginning of the day, Saturday.
Man.
Like you said, that's the perfect word to describe him as legend, because the guy's been acting for 50, 60 years. He's the OG Bond. And what's crazy about that is he stars in 7 Bond films. Mm-hmm. The 7th Bond film he's in, he didn't want to be in any more Bond movies. But what happened was he took a break from that character for a while, did a few other smaller parts in other movies, and he got in some deal with somebody over in Spain, buying some land or something like that, and the deal went south and he lost a lot of money. So he was hard up for money. So this 7th Bond role comes up. The studio asks him to come back. And I think it was called Never Say Never, which is ironic because he was done with the role. He didn't want to do it. His wife talked him into...
Never Say Never Again.
Never Say Never Again.
Yeah.
And his wife talked him into accepting the role because it's so ironic, the name, the title. And he asked for a certain amount of money, more than he had in the past, and the studio agreed. So he got the money he wanted, and he got to play this iconic character one last time. Obviously much older, but still the same suave, still cold as ice, get the job done Bond.
In my opinion, they've never really found a Bond better than Sean Connery.
I will say that too. I'll agree with that.
Like, Pierce Brosnan was suave. He was his acting quality wasn't near as good as Sean Connery's.
Right.
I do like Pierce Brosnan. I think he's a decent actor.
Okay.
But as far as stepping in those shoes or picking up the gun, the man with the golden gun, or whatever, I don't think he could really. He did. How many did Pierce Brosnan do? Like 4?
I think he did 4 or 5.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed Daniel Craig.
Same.
The new direction that the films went when they chose Daniel Craig to be James Bond, the 007 role, I think that was good. Nothing can really match Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Just the best.
I think if you ask people their opinion, everyone kind of agrees Sean Connery is their favorite Bond.
Right.
And with the Daniel Craig Bonds we've had, those have been more origin story Bonds. You know, the first Daniel Craig Bond he's in, the intro is in black and white, and he's getting his first kill, which is required for you to get 00 status.
Yeah.
So this Daniel Craig Bonds have been origin stories, whereas the Sean Connery Bonds were like right in the middle of it,
Man.
like Dark Knight level,
Right.
spy stuff.
Right.
And he's been in other movies I've enjoyed, like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
You enjoyed that?
I actually did. Like, you didn't like it?
No.
So that's the first.
It's fun when we find those out.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like, 'cause I think I wanted to like it.
Right.
And I remember seeing it in the movie theater, and I was like, this is a pile of crap. Like, the acting is horrible. Like, even Sean Connery's role was weird.
Yeah.
It was just so weird. It was loosely based on a comic.
Right.
And I don't think they hit the mark.
I agree with that, but I mean, it had cool characters in it from like lore and mythology.
The CG was really bad.
I mean, it was bad. Yeah.
But it was when like CG wasn't good yet.
Right. So you can't fault Sean Connery for that.
No, you're right. No, I'm not faulting Sean Connery. I'm just saying, like, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was around the time of The Mummy with The Rock, when the bad CG of that, around that same time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so like late 90s, early 2000s.
That would be 02, I think. 02, 03.
Okay. Yeah. So around that is the era of, we're not quite there yet on CG, but we're going to be pumping out some movies, and if League was made today, it would be so much better.
Right. No, I agree with that. A movie that type of film, I think, would rely heavily on proper CG.
Yeah.
As far as being a successful film.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. It wasn't a great film, but for some reason I liked it just because it's the combination of all those characters in that film. And then, of course, you've got Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is my favorite indie film.
Yeah.
And Entrapment with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah.
Where he's like the old aging spy, and she's like this young up-and-coming thief, and he basically takes her under his wing.
Yep.
And trains her to be this ultimate
Great
thief.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't talk about Sean Connery and not talk about The Untouchables.
And that too. He's one of the greatest
or the
deaths.
Rock,
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Right. Like The Rock was one of his biggest, like 96 major action movie. Really good movie.
It was Michael Bay, right?
Yeah, Michael Bay, which was it was before Michael Bay was Michael Bay, really. He didn't have his signature moves yet.
No.
But man, like Sean Connery, what a loss, what a legend. I love everything he's been in that I've seen.
He had a long life. Except for
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah. No, but he had a long
LXG.
life. That's a good one. There you go.
I think the poster was like LXG.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was one of those corny marketing campaigns.
Yeah.
But I mean, live to be 90 and have the career that you've had.
Bro, like, and also like his years of life, 1930 to 2020.
Yeah. He's seen so much.
He's seen so much.
Yeah.
Even up until this last year, right? Like, I don't know. His last year was him being sick, and it wasn't really publicized.
Because you told me that, and I didn't even know he was sick.
Right. Nobody knew how sick he was, as far as outside of the family, outside of the confidants.
So it's like Chadwick Boseman was the same deal.
They just played it close to the chest, and when he went, he went.
Now, obviously, so he dies, at 90. He'd been out of Hollywood, films for a long time.
Yeah, the last movie he was in was called Sir Billy. Actually, it came out in 2012.
It's an animated film, right? He's going to the voice of one of the characters?
Yeah, he did, yeah. Finding Forrester 2000, big role.
That's a good movie too, yeah.
You're the man now, dog. I mean, we were literally just doing voices the other day, and somebody was like, "Hey, can you do Sean Connery?" And I was like, I can do a couple of lines from Sean Connery. This was when I was in Houston a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And the lines I like to do are from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade,
of course,
which is the one I return to the most of the Indiana Jones movies. And there's a scene where the carpet's on fire. And the chair. Like, that's my favorite indie line. I mean, That's my favorite Indiana Jones' dad's line.
Right.
And then in Finding Forrester, he's like, "You're the man now, dog." And then he did a movie called Dragonheart,
I missed
where he
that
plays
one.
he plays the voice of a dragon called
Okay.
Draco. Okay, and the line he says in that movie is, "I am the last one,"
Of course he is.
because he's the last of its kind, the last talking dragon or whatever. Man, he did. The '90s were huge for him. First Night, Rising Sun, Medicine Man,
Snipes, yeah.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, he played King Richard, which was kind of a surprise when you see that for the first time. Like all of a sudden, there's Sean Connery, right? It's kind of a surprise role for him. Hunt for Red October, which was one of the first Jack Ryan stories.
That's a really good movie too.
Last Crusade, 1989. The Untouchables, 87. Highlander, 86.
Oh, that's right.
Remember, he was Ramirez from Highlander. So Never Say Never Again is the 1983 Bond movie you're talking about. We're just going to go through. I mean, Time Bandits.
Never saw it. Never heard of it.
1981.
Oh, fam, I was one.
It's I was
0.
born that year.
There you go.
But before we were born, there's so many. The Great Train Robbery, like A Bridge Too Far. He was Robin Hood in Robin and Marian in '76. I could sit here and we could talk about Sean Connery for an hour. We won't do that.
I mean, I love that he did all those films and then circled back around to Bond.
Yep.
In 1981, you said. So, or 83.
So, like, late 90s, he's kind of starting to stop acting.
And he's fizzling out.
And he did a role in the movie we're talking about today, Playing by Heart, where he is the father, the patriarch of this whole family, this whole big thing that we're, this storyline. A pivotal role for this story.
Okay.
And like I was saying, kind of a smaller role from the film. He didn't have that much screen time.
But if you think about the concept of this film, none of the actors do.
Nobody really had a lot of screen time.
What would you call it? It's like mini stories, and they're all kind of interwoven.
Yep, exactly.
And they kind of tie at the end.
Exactly. So I'm glad we're talking about this movie. I chose this movie. We watched this movie in screenplay class.
Okay.
We watched this movie and we watched The Game.
Michael Douglas?
Right?
Okay.
Michael Douglas, wonderful movie. And then they showed us this movie, and I'd never heard of it before. So I was in 2003 was when I was in film school.
Right.
2002, 2003. And this movie came out in 98. Never heard of it. It kind of flew under the radar. I'm sure you were going to talk about some of the box office numbers.
Yep.
We'll get to that. But not really a box office, blasting movie.
It wasn't at all.
However, right now I'm going to ask you, what's your review?
So, we did Beetlejuice to close out our Halloween series, and as the listeners know, I hated that movie. Didn't hate this one. It didn't blow me away either.
Okay.
But I didn't hate it, so it's kind of more like in between, like lukewarm for me.
Okay.
It's not a movie I would recommend somebody else watch.
Okay.
And at first, before I knew when it came out, which is December '98,
Yeah.
I thought this movie is so like cookie cutter and clean, and the ending's wrapped up in a bow, perfect for you. And then when I found out it's a December release, it makes sense because you don't want a movie that ends badly to release in December, because December's Christmas and family and everybody's supposed to be in good spirits. So you don't want to go to a movie feeling like that and then you leave the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So it worked out that way.
I chose this movie because I wanted to know your thoughts from a screenplay perspective, from a writing perspective.
So I love the dialogue. And speaking of the dialogue, do you remember the old TV review show Siskel and Ebert? Yep. So I watched that as a kid, which is probably one of my intros to just film as a whole. And so Siskel, he's now passed, long gone, but he gave it a thumbs down, deeming the film more about behavior rather than story, which I don't agree with, because in the film, to me, what carries the story in these different vignettes is the behavior of the actors.
Okay.
I mean, and it's very reminiscent of real life. Ebert also gave it a thumbs down, but he said it was due to star power. He gave it 2.5. He gave it 2.5 stars, and he said it was due to star power, entertaining dialogue, and charming moments. He said it was a near miss because of its soft, gooey center. And to that, Mr. Ebert, I say you have a soft, gooey center. But I do like what he said about entertaining dialogue because it does talk to the screenplay. I love the dialogue in this movie. Dude,
everything Angelina Jolie says was really cool. She had some really cool lines.
She did. And I'll admit, at the beginning of the film, when we were introduced to her, hated her character.
Yeah, well, she's plays that role. You know she wanted attention really bad. She's that type of girl.
Right.
You know, she knows just what to say.
We've all known girls like that.
We've all known girls like that. Ryan Philippe?
See, I would say Philippe.
Ryan Philippe.
I used to make fun of him and say Philippi.
Okay. Well, no, that's how I first heard it, was Philippi.
Right.
But okay,
I mean, it sounds like it would be Philippe.
However you pronounce his last name.
Tomato.
We're going to call him Ryan. So the Ryan and Angelina scenes, when you first meet Ryan, he's very subdued, very like whatever.
Like he's just there. Seems like
he kind of emo. In fact, he colored his hair blue without the producers knowing.
Oh, okay.
They had no idea, and he showed up to set one day and his hair was blue, and they were like, "Well, we got to do this,
right?"
And that it fit his character.
It fit his character, and then especially in that club, that EDM club vibe.
Yeah.
His whole demeanor, his clothes, his hair fit that scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And she's got like a plasticky looking jacket on. Like her hair color changes, her
hairstyle changes.
Everything about her changes every time you see her. Right. He's the same way.
Right.
So it kind of speaks to her character. Right. She's fleeting. She's literally breaking up with the guy and meets Ryan's character
in the same scene,
and they start talking.
Because so again, this is 1998, so we're talking about payphones, and she's on the payphone breaking up with her boyfriend, trying to negotiate what she gets to keep and what he's trying to take away from her.
Yep.
And he hangs up on her several times. So Ryan's character ends up giving her a quarter, I think 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. That's how they meet.
Yeah.
She turns around and taps him on the shoulder and.
Because he just happens to be the closest person to her.
I think he's waiting in line for the bathroom.
I think it's the bathroom. Because if you've been to a club, the men's bathroom line is always the longest.
Right.
So, been there.
So, that's how, we meet them first.
Yeah, we do.
Right, we meet Keenan and Joan first.
So, here's what's interesting about that. So, the opening credits of this film, it's an excerpt from a dialogue that she says halfway through the film.
In a scene we see later.
And I wonder, and when I saw the actual scene later on, I wonder why they put that in the beginning of the film.
As the hook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's some interesting bits in that dialogue that we'll get to later.
Right.
Now, so this movie also does star Gillian Anderson from X-Files fame.
Yep.
Obviously, the late, great Sean Connery. Jon Stewart, who later on goes to be the host of The Daily Show, and who is now hosted by Trevor Noah. Dennis Quaid's in this. Madeline Stowe, who I'm not really familiar with, is in this. Yeah.
Last Mohicans.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
that's her. In my mind, that's her claim to fame.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big role for her.
And we have a one-off cameo with no lines from Amanda Peet.
What?
She's in the improv scene for half a frame.
I didn't even see her.
Yeah.
And I've seen this movie a million times. I will tell you right now, I'm not a big fan of Amanda Peet.
I'm not either.
But I didn't see her in this movie. That's awesome that you picked up on that.
Yeah, because I saw her. She's in an improv scene.
Yeah.
And said half a frame. If you blink, you will miss her.
Yeah.
Because even the way they shoot is from the floor up.
Right.
And she was in a movie called Identity in 2002. Have you seen that movie?
I have.
Okay, now she's in that.
Yeah.
And I love that movie.
That's a good movie.
Also another one with different characters and storylines that weave together.
Right.
But that was a weird cameo for her in this. So I guess she wasn't really on the scene in full at this point.
Right.
Probably just like a low-level student actor. She was basically an extra in this. She doesn't have any lines.
Yeah, no lines.
Which I thought was kind of strange.
That's crazy. And I didn't even see her. So I didn't even know that existed. So yeah, lots of big, huge cast.
Right.
Right. From my perspective, this is a really well written film. The performances are not normal performances for any of these actors.
No.
I want to say we've seen Angelina play roles like this before, ish. But for Ryan, for Jay Moore.
You know what,
bro?
Let's just go right into that because that's the biggest issue I have with this film.
Okay.
Is his portion of the film.
Okay.
It's so Jay Moore's character. Every scene he's in, we meet him. He's in a hospital bed.
Yep.
And every scene he's in is in this hospital bed.
Yep.
And his mother comes, who's played by Ellen Burstyn from
From Everything.
From Everything.
She's been in acting forever.
Yeah, but the year later she does that the famous movie
Requiem.
Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah.
So she's in Requiem for a Dream the year after.
Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah, great director.
Yeah.
And when I first saw that film, a friend of mine said, if you know anybody hooked on drugs, show them this movie.
Right.
Because it definitely shows the darkest parts of drug addiction.
Yeah.
But so she's Jay Moore's mom in this film. So she shows up to the hospital. Jay Moore's in this bed, and it's revealed that he's dying. And to my knowledge, I don't know what he's dying of, what he's suffering from. I thought he was in an accident at first, but then every time they cut back to him,
it's not really. You don't really find out until like the third or fourth time they cut back to him.
Okay, so I guess I missed it. So please inform me because I don't know.
Well, it's AIDS.
Okay, I wondered about that because he did say he was gay.
Right.
Because he makes the statement, he's like, what a way to find out that your son's gay, right? Or something like that.
Right.
And
it's never said. It's only understood.
It's it's implied.
So it's never said. It's only implied.
Right.
And she's like, oh yeah, your roommate. And she didn't get that. Like she's like the absent-minded mom.
Right.
Doesn't really know much about her kids. Or kept in the dark. He didn't. I don't think he really tried to hide how much. I guess he did try to hide it.
Well, I mean, they kind of allude to the fact that it's been a while since he's seen.
She's kept in the dark. We'll go with that. She's kept in the dark. They haven't seen each other in a long time. He sees her again. Even his mom goes like, they said you haven't had many visitors. Like he's dying of something that nobody wants to come see him.
Right.
From. Right. So he's dying of AIDS. So that's very emotional role for Jay Moore to play. Like, never seen him play a role like this before. He's always the happy-go-lucky comedy. He was on Scrubs for a minute. He's been in so many comedy movies. He does stand-up. So just crazy role for him. Madeline Stowe and Anthony Edwards. That relationship.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
It was insane to me. I love that her character is only in it for the sex, while Anthony Edwards wants more than that. Yeah. And he even goes so far as to say, do you really love your husband? And she even says, no, I don't. Basically that, she lives with a roommate. That her husband's a roommate. Yeah. Her husband in this film, we find out later, is Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, the way that they introduce everybody is really cool.
Yeah.
I like all of them.
But obviously he wants more.
Yeah.
We don't meet his wife in this movie. Or do we? If I missed it.
Dennis Quaid's wife?
No.
Anthony Edwards' wife. No.
Because the twist with him is at the end. So at the end, all these characters in these storylines culminate in this ending renewal of vows from vowels. Renewing of vowels. Renewal of vowels. Learn your ABCs.
Yep.
Renewal of vows from Sean Connery's relationship with his wife.
Yep.
And Anthony Edwards turns out to be the priest, which I thought was really interesting.
I don't know if I liked that choice.
I didn't like it either.
Like,
though.
I was like, are they just trying to tie everybody into this one ending scene?
Okay, so you know what?
Which they did.
We feel the same way because that whole ending, I guess that's what was too cliche, too convenient, that everybody just comes together in this scene.
Yeah.
And then they just shoehorn him in as the priest who happens to be, the master of ceremony over this gathering. I didn't like it either.
Yeah. I mean, at least they gave him closure.
Right.
With Madeline Stowe and Dennis Quaid, their characters getting back together, like kind of in a way, kind of renewing their marriage,
right? With
a dance and a couple of looks and a couple of lines of dialogue, and then you see Anthony Edwards from across the way, and he's kind of like, and then he's like, he lowers his shoulders in kind of defeat, and walks away, right?
So the Dennis Quaid character. So the first half of this film, I'm trying to figure out what is his problem. What is his deal?
Yeah.
Because actually we meet him first. It's not Angelina Jolie and Ryan Philippe. It's him because he walks into this bar.
That's right.
And he looks hammered already, drunk already.
And he has the Patricia Clarkson.
Yeah.
Patricia Clarkson.
That's her name. I couldn't think of her name.
So he sees her and, And I mean, she's a part of the class, right? And before you go on, I want you to know what you thought about the cast member Valerie, played by April Grace.
Is this the black woman?
Yes.
Okay.
When you first saw her, and she's doing her whole like looks, and she just pops up in every scene with Dennis Quaid,
right? For
a little bit, and then she stops. Mm-hmm. What did you think when you first saw her?
At first, I thought this movie was gonna have like a weird, like supernatural twist to it. Like maybe she's like a fairy of some kind, or has some kind of magic that's tied into Dennis Quaid's unhappiness. Because I really believe
that's how she was portrayed.
I mean, it was because she kind of lingered in the background. Yeah. He would leave, and then she would pop in the frame and like give this veering look, and that's it.
She had an interesting look, and she always looked at him in a very interesting way. And it is, I mean, very eye-catching, very strange.
Right.
And you're like, why? And then I was like, she's got to be like the improv class.
So you figured it out.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, based on life experience, like she's probably like the improv class teacher.
Oh, okay.
Or she's just a class member and she's supposed to observe, and report back to the teacher or something like that.
Okay.
Because she's watching him play these characters 3 times.
Yeah.
Right? And I like Dennis Quaid's acting in this. Like I
did too.
Because you haven't really seen a whole lot of this kind of roles for him, which goes back to my original statement. Like everybody's playing a different role for their normal roles they play.
So I thought it was a great intro to the film because you get some form of introduction to these characters, but you don't quite know what's really going on. And I like intros to films that introduce characters that don't give you the full story right off the bat. Give me time to try and figure it out, which I think goes back to the writing, how well written the script was.
Yeah.
Because it allows the viewer time to let certain things soak in and figure things out. And then when you're wrong, they kind of pull the rug from you and reveal the curtain and tell you what's really going on.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool.
Let's go to 1998.
Okay.
And let's talk about the cinematic atmosphere of 1998.
So a couple weeks ago, we did a movie called Can't Hardly Wait, which was released that summer, June. So this is December 98. So I want to go through some of the same movies I listed in that episode. But we've got Saving Private Ryan, Truman Show, Patch Adams with the late, great Robin Williams, Big Lebowski, which, by the way, did you hear Jeff Bridges recently announced he's got lymphoma?
Yes.
I was shocked by that.
It's huge. Like, he's going through treatments, and he's posting a lot of funny things about it. Like, he's approaching it in a very different way.
Well, this past Thursday, this is Sunday, Thursday, he did make an announcement that treatment's going well and he's in great spirits. And I forget that he's like he's a stage performer. He's a musician.
Right.
And so it was a caption of him like on stage somewhere playing.
Performing, yeah.
Right. So, prayers to him. Hope his recovery goes well.
I think I remember why this movie was kind of not so big in my mind.
Please, I would love to
Saving Private Ryan came out in December also.
Oh, well, okay.
Saving Private Ryan was a massive movie. And depending on when Playing by Heart was released, probably didn't matter because Saving Private Ryan was one of those movies that like was so big, they actually put it back in cinemas.
Oh.
Like a few months later.
Okay.
Because, like the end of the year is when Oscar movies, big Oscar nods are released. And if they are chosen like Saving Private Ryan was, they actually put it back in theaters.
Okay.
And so Playing by Heart was probably under the radar completely.
I'm sure it was. Especially with that cast. You can't even compare that to the Saving Private Ryan cast.
Sure, like even though this is a big cast and they were still big in the late 90s, all of these people. It's crazy how like a movie can be released and you don't know how big another movie's going to be and just gets swept under the radar.
But I mean, come on, you're going against Tom Hanks, who's going to knock it out of the park every time.
And Spielberg.
Yeah.
So of course he's going to knock it out of the park every time. Yeah.
Just a couple other movies too. Pleasantville.
I love that movie.
Dark City. Rufus Sewell.
I never saw Dark City.
It's like a sci-fi dark thriller.
I like Rufus Sewell.
Yeah.
He's been in so many things.
One movie I hated, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I hated it. It was a really weird movie.
It was a weird movie.
I feel like
it's based on a weird character.
I needed to be on drugs to enjoy it, and I
I
wasn't.
think they were on drugs when
Yeah, they had to be.
Yeah.
Deep Impact and the animated Mulan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some big movies just throughout the year.
Yep.
But obviously, I think the year ends properly with Saving Private Ryan.
Well, this was one of 4 movies that the director made. I don't know if he's still doing anything.
No.
I don't think he is, because his last movie he directed was 2007, and the last writing credit he has was also that same year. He hasn't been producing since then. So he directed this movie in 98. Before this was The Runestone in 91, which never heard of.
No.
Tom's Midnight Garden in 99, and the year after this. And then a movie called Marigold in 2007, starring Ali Larter. Directing-wise, I don't think it was that well directed.
I agree.
I think everything that I really like about this movie is the characters, the character development, and the writing. That's what I really like about this.
I agree.
The performances were great, but it has nothing to do with really him.
No.
It was kind of more them. Because we talked about this before, you have directors that are really good at directing talent, and then you have directors that are really good at directing story. And sometimes those two coincide in a special director, but a lot of times, especially if the writing if the writer is also the director, it's hard for the director to get away from. It's hard for them to get away from the what they wrote.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
And how they pictured it in their mind, and even in their heart when they're writing this. Like, he's probably poured a lot of his heart into this movie.
I'm sure there are bits and pieces of him in some of these characters. When I write scripts, I'm the same way. There's bits and pieces of my personality in each of these characters.
Yeah.
So every character in a script that I write, whether it's a feature film or a television show, like, if you encompass all the characters and their personalities, it kind of embodies me as a whole.
Right. I do want to say that over the last few years, I've had some pretty big relationships. Not too many, like, to note. Twice I have used this movie in the beginning of my relationships to kind of see how they feel about it. There's this movie that I have my girlfriend and I watch. I'm not dating anyone. I'm just saying when I'm in a relationship,
right.
I watch this movie, and then I watch a stand-up special that I love. I'll choose one or two that I love,
okay,
and just kind of see where they are on that playing field, to kind of see what I'm working with.
How does that work out for you normally?
Well, I mean, none of these relationships have worked out for me, so
obviously, yeah.
I can't really say anything based on that.
Okay.
But it's kind of told me what I wanted to know about the girls. You know, like, hey, watch this movie and let me know what you think. I'm saying all this to say that I didn't do that with our relationship.
No. Yeah, no, because...
You never heard of it.
I've never heard of it. And
yeah.
Like, I think we're going to have that happen often. It's going to be a recurring theme is, I just watched it for the first time 3 days ago or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're opening my eyes to movies I haven't seen.
And the same.
And yeah.
I mean, you're going to show me some horror movies that I've never seen.
Oh, yeah. Buddy, I can't wait for next Halloween.
Or you're going to show me some, any movies on your list of top 10 that you love that I've never seen or whatever.
Right. Now, you talk about how you kind of, I guess, gauge the beginnings of your relationship. Like, this is like your intro to seeing, will this work out?
And I do love romantic comedies, and I do love really good romance movies that aren't too... I'm going to use a term, but aren't too sappy, aren't too lovey-dovey. But I do enjoy a good romance. Okay,
same. I do too.
A good love story.
My list is probably shorter than yours, but I've got some that are just like, oh yeah, I love these. Again, they're not sappy, but yeah, we'll cover them for sure.
Yeah.
So Gillian Anderson's character is, when we meet her at the beginning of the film, super jaded by relationships that ended badly, super cynical.
Absolutely. And I know girls like that.
And I related to that, so I even wrote down, I said, her character's name is Meredith. And from that first scene she's in, I say, wait, am I Meredith? Because she says the line, she's not interested in a relationship, telling one of her coworkers this. But then as she walks away to herself, she admits to herself that she's a liar. And she does want to be in one.
Right.
And I've gone through many phases where I say, I don't want to be in one. Publicly, I'll tell, friends or whoever I don't.
I've said that.
Yeah, but deep down, it's like, well, I mean, I think we all yearn for companionship.
Sure.
And intimacy with, a partner, something that you can share moments with on a deeper level. A few weeks ago, my parents, they were visiting my apartment because they hadn't seen it. And we're on the elevator going down to the bottom floor to leave. And there's this other woman gets on the elevator. She's like dressed in her workout attire. I mean, she's attractive, but I'm in the elevator. I'm not really thinking this is the place to meet somebody. An elevator is super awkward. And so my parents both speak to her because they're just that way. They're from East Texas. And, if she speaks back, just, hello, how you doing? And we all have our bags. We're actually going out of town to some farmhouse. And this girl says, oh, you guys are headed out of town, da-da-da. And they say, yeah, we're here for the weekend, this kind of thing. I never say a word to her, by the way. I'm standing in front of this girl, and they're having a full conversation behind me. I'm thinking, fam, I'm trying to get to the car so we can leave. Don't engage anybody. And she doesn't have a mask on, and we're in an enclosed space. So she goes off to the gym, and I already know my parents. We get outside, and my mom is like, Mike, see, there you go. And I already know what she means. I'm thinking, no, Mom, stop trying to jinx me or put a hex on me and put me in a relationship because I don't want to be in one. And my dad's like, no, Mike. I'm like, no, y'all got to chill. I'm not trying to be with anybody.
That, I got to say, that bothers me because, like, I've been in that situation before.
Right.
I've been single for about a year and a half now. And
5 for me.
I'll see a girl across the way with some friends of mine, and I'm like, man, that girl's pretty. And they're like, go talk to her. And I'm like, not like that, like I want to.
Right.
But, like, give me a little bit more liquid courage or whatever before I go speak with her.
Right. See, it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you. And I picked up on that in times we've hung out. But for me, I know they're saying that. They're kind of teasing me. But obviously, I think as parents, you want your kids to be happy and be with somebody. So I understand that.
And friends, and, my brother or whatever.
Right.
They want me to meet somebody.
Right.
Of course, that's perfect for me or whatever.
But so to go back to, Is Meredith Me? Like I said, her character is super jaded, which I definitely am. I think if you've been burned enough times, you're going to start to feel jaded and a little cynical towards the idea of entering a new relationship with somebody, skeptical.
Right. Protecting yourself.
Right. And in this film, she's definitely that to a T.
Yeah.
She tries to get wooed by Jon Stewart's character, who's this well-off. I mean, what does he do for a living? He's well off.
I think he's in like major construction.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah,
okay.
like a building, like a big building construction or whatever. His character's name is Trent.
Okay.
Which is perfect for his character. Which I was going to say about Meredith too. Like I think Meredith was perfect for that role.
Yeah.
That character's name. But he like persists, man. He like
super pushy. I didn't like that.
He's totally into her, and I think he did it in a very non-douchey way.
I mean, I thought so too.
Like. He obviously really liked her. The way he asks her out in the very beginning, I think that was completely out of left field.
It was.
But we learned that he's kind of like been, like he's seen her for a few weeks now in the building or whatever. And, obviously attracted to her, and then just says, the bookshelf falls down.
Yeah.
And his guys pick it up. He's like 1, 2, and they pick it up on 1. And he's not even picking it up.
No.
And she's okay. She gets up, and he's like, "Can I make this up over
dinner?" And, super forward.
And it was a very forward thing. And I think I'm kind of forward like that, but still, it caught me off guard.
Same.
As the viewer.
Same. And she reluctantly agrees.
Yeah, I mean, it turns into be a not great
date. Man, that was one of my favorite bits because it was so real if you put yourself in the mindset of Meredith's character and where she's obviously been and how she views relationships and going into that again with this guy, even thinking about it. But he invites himself to her place and said, you can cook for me. And she agrees, which I was shocked that she would agree because like you said, he was very forward, obviously saw something in her. And he said, you can cook for me. So, he gets to her place. He's got flowers. And then he even makes a joke about being late because he said he threw the flowers away, but then 3 times. And then he decided to go back and get the flowers and brings them over. Are you a flower guy? Would you bring flowers on a first date?
Not to a first date.
Okay.
For flowers, that is kind of a beginning relationship thing. Mm-hmm. And I am a flower guy, but not... The bottle of wine would be more of a choice for me than the flowers.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of like the wine guy. Like If I'm coming over to your house, if you invited me over for dinner, I'm bringing wine.
Yeah, I know when we had game nights, you're the wine guy. You bring the wine.
I'm the wine guy.
You're like you're the yellowtail guy. Yellowtail is your wine.
Dude, it's awesome. It's inexpensive.
It's really and it gets the job done. Let me tell you,
it gets the job done. Yeah, I was over at a friend's house this Wednesday.
Yeah,
this past Wednesday. It was like a coworker hangout time, and there's only like a few of us, and without the bosses.
Those are the best ones.
And I grabbed a bottle of Yellowtail to go. Like a good Cab Sav is what I call it, Cabernet Sauvignon.
Right.
And it was so good, and we had she made spaghetti, so it went perfectly.
That's funny because when he shows up to her house, she says, "I hope you like Italian," because she's making, I think, some sort of pasta dish,
fancy pasta
right?
Dish, yeah.
So it's not done yet. So in the middle of that finishing, they get into this conversation, and it goes completely south so fast.
So fast.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them have, and like, here's the thing. Both of their dialogue is really well written.
I agree.
And well portrayed, because like when I'm looking at this movie as an actor and like looking at it through the eyes of you as a writer, that's why I love these scenes.
Same.
Because these scenes from all these different points of view and different parts in their relationships are so well portrayed.
Right. I agree.
And you bought into them.
In that moment, I definitely did.
Yeah, like you want to know what's going on, like why isn't it working? Where is this going to go?
And so again, we're just giving little tidbits here and there about these characters, and we find out later. But so the fight really drew me in, obviously as a viewer.
Yep. Well, conflict is interesting.
It is, but I also thought, well, this seems like more of a fight that probably realistically would have happened maybe on the second or third date.
Yeah.
But because she just dives into all these reasons why we shouldn't be together. And it's like, look, this is just a first date, which really is just like the intro. Let's just see if we're even compatible at all.
Right.
But she's like, no, this is the reason why I don't want to do this, da-da-da. And basically kicks him out.
Well, I mean, he reluctantly leaves. Like, he really wanted to stay.
Yeah. Because he even tries to convince her, look, sex is the furthest thing away from what I'm thinking about. I'm just really into you. I want to get to know you.
Yeah.
And she's just adamantly, no. You need to leave.
He even talks about the walls that she has built up, which is a good line.
Really good.
And yeah, so he takes off. And then he shows up again. And I don't remember what was the situation. Like, where did he come from?
So she's a stage, right? Or stage...
he goes to her play.
Yeah.
Yes. She's like a civic theater type director.
Right.
One of the first times we see her is when she's working with some of her actors, and they're like not doing great in a scene, and they're like, "It's 2 a.m. Can we go?" They're like, like college age.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've got a day job I gotta get up for. And,
that's a great line too. Yeah.
And so like that whole scene, and that's kind of when we meet. Like, we kind of figure out what she does for a living, and then her play premieres, and it's like the after the play's over,
right.
like the rap party or whatever, and he just kind of like appears. He came, and in my head, like, I would do that. Like, if I was in his shoes, I would totally go to the play.
So even after the first date went so bad, you would still try again?
I think so. Like, I'm such a romantic that I think that, like, if I really liked someone like he seems he does, I would really pursue and be persistent.
See, I'm the exact opposite. If she was that standoffish and that closed off, I don't want to have to put forth that much energy to try to break down those barriers.
Yeah.
And then still play 50-50. This still may not work out anyway.
Maybe that's my downfall. Maybe I fall too hard.
So you're playing it by heart.
I do play it by heart. Wow. Man.
I feel
like we should switch chairs, because I think I should be on the couch per se, and you should be, telling me how I feel.
So Brad, tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, right. I should be telling you how I feel. And maybe that's why I like this movie so much, because like it's bleed your feelings out.
It is.
It's hard on your sleeve, and every scene is super like lovey, like not lovey-dovey, but like
it's like you said, it's not sappy.
No,
it's just romantic enough that you can relate to it.
It's pretty real. This is not a fantasy type romantic comedy or whatever. It's a more realistic point of view, and I like that a lot.
This is a movie that embodies the love conquers all theory.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you can believe that if you want or not. I specifically don't, but in this movie, obviously by the end, love does conquer all.
Right.
And talking about characters who are in love, Sean Connery's character and his wife, I don't really know how I felt about it even now, but so when we meet him, it's obvious he's got a brain tumor. So he doesn't have long. Mm-hmm. And
which they joke about.
And he's in denial about this, or he just doesn't want to deal with it. He'd rather just focus on making memories that will last before he goes, and I understand that. And then something happens where he goes to bed one night, and his wife goes like rummaging through his work desk and sees an old photo, because Sean Connery's character used to be an actor back in the day, and she did as well. And so they're
in that desk though,
right?
What's he doing?
He's going through her what do you call those? Because there's a specific word for her royalties. He's talking about her royalties money and something about how she's not getting enough.
And the will too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that night, he goes to bed and she goes back to that desk because she just can't stop thinking about, my husband's going to die soon. And then we later learn that there's an impending renewal of vows to have an official ceremony.
Right.
So she has a billion things in her mind.
Right.
And she's got a husband who won't talk about what's coming.
Yeah.
What's the inevitable. And so she goes back to his work desk and rummaging through and sees an old photo of this young woman, black and white. Wendy. And so that sparks a whole separate conflict within this relationship.
I do like the conflict that it sparked.
I do too.
And I do like what it did to their relationship and their whole stories. I'm not a fan of talking about a character that doesn't exist in my mind. We haven't seen her.
Right.
We don't know anything. In fact, it's a rule in improv where you don't do that.
Okay.
You don't talk about somebody who's not there.
Oh, okay.
So that's, approaching that from an improv standpoint, I'm like,
right.
oh, this is kind of a weird for me to accept this situation. However, like I just said, love what it did to the relationship, because he's like, I was too much in love with her.
It's a good line. I've used that line before.
Yeah. Dude, I respect Sean Connery's character in this because he's in some hot water.
Yeah.
Right?
But he doesn't shy away from it. He tells the truth. He tells her more than she wanted to know.
He leaned into it.
Because there's even a scene where she gets really mad about him admitting his feelings for Wendy back then, because he was married to her at the time. And she basically says, well, why'd you get upset? You're the one that asked. It's a very true statement.
Yeah.
And I found that myself in past relationships and other friends, women will ask you a direct question and they want you to tell the truth, but then when you do and they don't like it, they get upset and they react the way she does. And so you respond the way he does. Why did you ask then?
Yeah.
I don't understand
If you don't want to know the truth, why'd you ask?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, their whole relationship, she's got a cooking show, and there's that one part, man, where she messes up and she improvises.
She goes with it.
And then I love what Sean Connery did to the producer or the director or whatever, whenever he held up his hand. Because the guy was like, hey, I smell another Emmy or whatever he says. Some sort of bullshit, producer talk or whatever.
Because Sean Connery realizes she needs a minute. Because that mistake on camera,
it was bad.
I mean, she
wasn't in her right mind.
Right.
Yeah. And
she played it off really well.
She did.
But then she got through it, and then once they called cut, she needed a minute to just regather her thoughts. And Sean Connery said, "Hey," just basically threw his hand up and said, "Hey, she needs a minute. Relax."
She stepped out of frame, and the director's like, "Okay, we're clear," or whatever.
Right.
And I like that whole. It really showed me more about how he really does care for her.
Yeah, he does,
and how he really does protect her, and is looking out for what's best for her.
Right. Now there's a specific catchphrase that's peppered throughout this film that 3 of the actresses in this film say, and at first I kept wondering. There were so many moments in the beginning of the film where I'm wondering what's happening here. What's up with that word?
Connected.
Yeah. Because I knew the synopsis was, everything's connected somehow.
Yeah.
So I kept waiting for that moment, and you have little bitty threads of it throughout the film until the big reveal. And one of the initial threads that I picked up on was the phrase "anger ball," and Go ahead.
Well, no, it tells. I'm not going to cut you off, but I just want to say, it tells you about what's going on. It kind of explains what's going on. Plus, it's a connection.
It is. You're right.
And we didn't really know what kind of connection it was until we're like, oh, these are sisters.
Yeah.
Right?
So anger ball is a phrase I've never heard of before, and I want to say, so 3 different female characters say it, maybe 4, because it's the mother, Sean Connery's wife, and you said her name was
Mildred.
Mildred. By the way, that's definitely an old woman's name.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no more Mildreds anymore.
I don't know any 30-year-old Mildreds.
And I don't know if I want to be with you if your name is Mildred. Right. So
you have Mildred and Paul.
Mildred and Paul, okay.
You have Meredith, and they spread all the actors out.
I'm so bad with the names.
Meredith and Trent.
Okay.
And then Keenan and Joan.
Okay.
And then you have Hugh and Gracie. Then you have Mark and Jane. Wait, is that Jane? Mark's mom.
Okay.
I thought it was Mark and... I'm sorry. Mildred is not...
Oh, it's not her name?
Is not Sean Connery's wife.
Okay.
Mildred's Mark's mom.
Gotcha.
Mildred and Mark.
So again, still old lady.
I remember there was alliteration there. But it was Paul and Jane. And Jane is played by Gina Rowlands.
I couldn't think of her name. That's right.
From The Notebook and from like a lot of things. The Skeleton Key and Hope Floats.
Have you seen The Skeleton Key?
Yeah.
Really?
I haven't seen it since I saw it.
Okay. So they do a good job of, because they're introducing all these characters, they give you the names. Like they pop up the
which is cool.
Yeah, and I love that.
Yeah.
But there were just so many names.
Which Can't Hardly Wait
does
did the whole snapshot and like bio. Which I think that's cool.
I do too. I agree.
It's kind of it's a story movie. What's the word?
It's a trope that they use.
It's a trope.
Yeah.
It's a way to move the story along and for the viewer to know exactly who these characters are.
Right.
And so you can there's Mark.
Now, unfortunately for me, because I'm bad with names in real life, I'm also bad with names in movies.
In movie life?
See, in movie life. So when they cut between these characters, that's what threw me off too. Is I can't keep up with your names. First of all, there's 10 names.
Yeah.
Because there's 10 characters, and they all have these names, and you're intercutting between these storylines.
Yeah.
And I can't keep up with who's who.
It's really more of a way that television does.
Right.
Right. When you have all these different characters, it's a character-driven story.
It is.
You wouldn't want to put all the things together in one piece because it makes it less interesting. So if you cut it up, and I wonder if that's what was the original idea.
Oh, maybe
I
so.
wonder if while it was being written, if he put it all together and then split it all up, or if the editor decided to, the director's the producer, so he had a big say in how it was edited.
Right. I can definitely see from a production standpoint, every Angelina Jolie and Ryan Phillippe scene, except for a few towards the end, are all in the same club. So I can see how they just said, hey, bring a change of clothes.
I'm sure they did that.
And we're going to shoot.
If they didn't, they're dumb.
I agree.
As a producer, I would have said, we're going to use this location. We have it for only 12 hours or whatever. We need to get it all shot in one time.
And because there are club scenes, that club was huge, and it's packed every scene that they're in. So you know how hard it would be to get 100 or 200 extras for multiple nights?
Right.
You get it one night, you get it, and you get the shots, and you're done. You move on to the next thing. And then they cut it up.
So I was talking the other day about how they shoot scenes like this. And I was talking about how in big club scenes like this, or a party, there's no dialogue at all being spoken except for the dialogue that is like the characters that are talking. Everybody in the background is muted. Like they're instructed not to make a sound.
Right. They can mimic words.
And there's tricks to that too. You say watermelon Pepsi Cola with your mouth without actually saying it. You just mouth the words.
Rhubarb is another one I've read.
Rhubarb, Walla Walla. Literally.
Yeah.
Like Walla 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 Walla. Right. Rhubarb. When I was in plays as a kid, we would say watermelon Pepsi Cola. So all you're really hearing is like shuffling of feet and like clinking of glasses or whatever. There's nothing being spoken.
Right.
And then they add in
the sound effects.
They probably like have the room tone recorded and the people at the party. Okay, this is your turn to talk. We're going to record now, and then they just pipe that in underneath the dialogue. But and it's just so fun to talk about that with people that don't know production because they're like, "What?" Like they don't understand that.
Because once you start to see those scenes in movies and television,
and you watch
you realize the people dancing in the background are so offbeat.
Yep.
There's that scene in...
you see background actors,
Oh,
too.
I love it. I live for the overacting extras in the background. I love it.
Yeah. Let's go to some trivia about this movie.
Okay.
I spoke of one earlier about how Ryan didn't tell the filmmakers that he was going to dye his hair blue. The first they knew of it was when he turned up on set the day of filming with his hair a different color. Most of the cast and crew were taken aback, but writer and director Willard Carroll liked it. Coincidentally, Angelina Jolie dyed her hair on the same day, which is really funny.
Yeah.
She may have been told to, but...
She may have been told to, but knowing her personality, she might have said, okay, I'll go with that. So she just happened to have some hair color in her purse. So I'll be right back. Hold on a second.
Yeah. Did you know that Sean Connery took only $60,000 as his salary for this movie? As he was keen to play a character his age in a relationship with someone his own age. Very uncharacteristic for Sean Connery.
Yeah, but I respect that, though.
Respect.
That's a big
and
move.
This was a far cry from the $14 million he earned from The Rock
Wow.
in 96. So just a few years before this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously $14 million 2 years ago, he's still good, so he doesn't really need the money. But his ego definitely could have said, no, I want this much money again.
Yeah.
Because I just come from The Rock to this. I don't care that this is an indie film. I want what I want or you can't have me.
Yeah.
So I respect him as an actor to say, I'm going to swallow my pride, remove my ego, and say, I'll take whatever, is necessary to get this film done.
And this was on his way out of acting.
Right.
He was almost retiring.
Yeah.
I think Entrapment would have been his last big...
Which I think was the year after, 99.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're right, yeah. The scene where Angelina says the line, talking about music is like dancing about architecture. First of all, what do you think about that line?
So a lot of times you watch a movie for the first time, and it doesn't all soak in. Just there's different things coming at you. You're trying to figure this particular film out because there's a lot happening and going on. And I didn't like the line at first, but as the days have gone on leading up to today, I liked the line. So much that I went back and tried to find the quote because I couldn't remember the specific quote.
Well, this is the line that is said twice because this is the scene that they cut that little part out and put at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then we go into the opening and then we hear this line later. And I think that's kind of why they did that because you saw the movie for the first time. You're hearing this line for the first time. And it's, coming from a writer's standpoint, the writer's probably pretty proud of that line and pretty wants to really nail it in, right? Originally, this movie was titled Dancing About Architecture. The movie still contains the line from which this title was taken, talking about music is like dancing about architecture, which I totally get.
I do too. There's certain things that you can't describe in words. It's more of a feeling or an emotion.
She even equates to it about jazz and talking about jazz or whatever.
Right.
Because jazz is improv. Jazz is
Absolutely.
very made up, spur of the moment. I love jazz.
Same, I do too. So this budget was crazy. $14 million budget. I don't know why.
That would have been all of... Hold on, 14 million?
Yeah, that was the budget.
That would have been all of Sean Connery's takeaway.
Yeah, so see, you wouldn't have this movie, or he wouldn't be in it.
Yeah.
Now, this movie took a big loss. Only made $3.9 million.
Man.
Yeah, big loss.
Any numbers on DVD sales or anything like that?
No, I didn't find any.
Yeah.
But that's a big loss. This is a little trivia. This is a Harvey Weinstein project.
Yeah, it's Miramax.
So, it's Miramax.
Yep. The classic Miramax City opening in the beginning.
Now, speaking of the classic opening of the city, there was one other thing I didn't like about the film. The transition from night to day was really quirky to me.
It was very 90s.
It was, yeah. You don't see transitions like that from day to night. Mm-hmm. It was like a time lapse, but like an overlay or a composite of another image. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was so strange, but I guess you can equate it to being 90s.
I wanted to ask you, what did you think about how this movie was set in Los Angeles?
So I did love that. I didn't know that until I started watching it.
That one song, L.A., 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 L.A.
So as you know, I have an affinity for New York City.
Yep.
And also Los Angeles. So any movie that's shot there, I'm all in. I didn't like that, and this goes back to what we talked about earlier where Carroll was focused more on, I guess, directing words that he wrote on page, as being a writer, and not focusing on cinematography.
Yeah.
LA is such an iconic city. I need to see more just establishing shots of LA, exteriors of LA.
Coming from a producer standpoint, I saw how stuffy all the shots were.
Yeah.
Like there weren't really a whole lot of like big, grand, beautiful shots.
No.
It was all like again television style.
You're right, absolutely right.
I wonder if this was even like this may have been like a TV movie that actually they just chose to make it into an actual Hollywood production or something.
And because even what you talked about earlier about how it jumps between characters and scenes, it's very soap opera like. Soap operas they follow the same formula. A billion characters they cut between. This and that. Yep. And I'm thinking about at least 20 scenes I can name off right now where it's just two characters just sitting.
I mean, just about every single character we see is in a scene where they're sitting.
Right.
Except for when Angelina Jolie and Ryan are at the club and they're maybe dancing or whatever, or they're at the bar or something. But like most of the time, they're sitting. Like
all of Madeline Stowe and Anthony Edwards scenes are either they're laying in bed. One of them's walking out of the bathroom in a hotel room. So a lot of interior shots.
Yeah, they're either beginning to be romantic or at the end of romantic, and they're laying there and except for that one scene where she's running down the hall and she's like, did she not say hold the elevator, or was English not your first language?
And then she turns around, all the guys
and then she's like, they are all Asian. They absolutely don't speak. They're all in business suits, and they all exit and then Anthony Edwards is wearing like a hoodie, like with his hood on, and, like very conspicuous. Very like if you're trying to like hide an affair, don't do that.
But I guess there's certain things I guess you start to really pick up on because you can break down film in a technical way the way we can.
Yeah.
We see it with a different lens.
Yeah.
When all those Asian guys get off the elevator and they stay on the static shot of her face, you know there's somebody else in the elevator.
Oh, yeah.
Because they even lead you with that one line, does nobody speak English?
Yeah.
And I just knew there's somebody else in there. I just obviously didn't know how it was going to tie in. But yeah, you see very conspicuous Anthony Edwards.
Yeah. And just a couple of quick lines of dialogue about how long this has been going on.
Right.
Kind of explains their relationship.
Yeah, and I could see how he would want more because he doesn't have somebody to go home to. Even if it's a bad relationship, she obviously does. And her and Dennis Quaid are not in a great place. This is her escape from that.
There was a line where she says, he goes, you don't love your husband. And she goes, well, you love your wife.
Oh, that is true.
Remember that? We never meet his wife.
And I wonder if that was a mistake in the script because, like you said, it's something that's mentioned that you never see, and maybe he told her that in the beginning of this affair that he does have a wife,
right?
Just so that way it could kind of level the playing field. Because normally when you have an affair, both parties are with somebody else. It's not one person single, the other person is married. Both parties are committed to somebody else, by marriage. So I wonder if that was a mistake or if that's just the line that his character told her to make it easy for her to say, okay, let's do this thing.
Right. We were talking earlier about how most of these scenes that we see these characters in are they're sitting down, they're watching TV or there's something. Like she's watching, like she heard, like you could hear Jay Leno.
Yeah.
In one of the backgrounds.
I caught that too.
And there's even a joke about Leno and Letterman, and like the way that Sean Connery pronounced Leno's name was weird.
Yes.
Like it sounded weird coming out of his mouth. But later she's watching a movie.
Okay.
And he comes in and she's watching a movie.
Right.
And he like ruins it for her.
Yes.
Remember? Well, this movie contains spoilers for Midnight Lace from 1960, Citizen Kane from 1941, Psycho from 1960, and Suddenly Last Summer from 1959.
Yeah.
Spoilers for all those movies.
The Citizen Kane one stood out to me because it's not a popular movie. Obviously, that movie was, over 100 years ago now?
Popular for people like us.
For people like us, yeah. But I mean, just generally speaking, general public.
Yeah, not a big...
They have no idea.
Yeah.
We watched that. I actually took a film class
we did too.
At UT Tyler a long time ago. And what we did was we watched a different movie from every decade. And that was the first one we saw. Citizen
Kane used to be important, and like if you said Rosebud, like people would know what you mean.
Right.
But not anymore, really. It's kind of a forgotten film.
I agree.
The house in which Trent, or Jon Stewart's character, lives is in the same house used for Tim Allen's character in Galaxy Quest. Colin Firth's character in Where the Truth Lies. It is known as Case Study House Number 22, a.k.a. Stall House, and in the Hollywood Hills section of Los Angeles.
So it's a house just for filming purposes?
I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've always wondered about that. That's really cool, because that house was super nice.
Yeah, super nice. Like,
Yeah.
The more that you saw it, and you're like, we've seen movies since then that have been taking place in Los Angeles with these big mansions up on the hills,
Right.
And like, this is one of those, like, maybe an infinity pool, and like you can see LA
Yes.
from your backyard or whatever. The front door, like he goes to get the Chinese food,
Yeah.
and he's like running by the pool. So the gate is the front door of the house, right? Like you go through the gate to get to the house,
and then you have access to the property.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talked about this multiple times, how the dialogue and the writing is so good. This is probably one of the first films we've covered where we really highlight the writing, how good it was.
That is the reason why I wanted you to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so in that regard, I mean, 10 out of 10 for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
So I don't have one favorite line. And so at this point, Keenan and Joan, they've had a really big moment, a pivotal moment, and a turning point in the film, which I love. I love pivotal turning moments in films for characters because it does continue that character arc. And she confesses that she loves him, and he even goes into this whole thing of why he can't be with her.
He's still so apprehensive about wanting to talk about it. It's still very fresh. It was such a big deal. It devastated him.
Right. And so he's reluctant in the same way but different reason than Gillian Anderson's character was.
Right.
And when that scene is revealed why he's reluctant, it's a great scene. But there's a line where they get to this fight, and then towards the end of the film, they have the reconciliation. Keenan shows up to Joan's apartment. She lets him in.
She's on the phone with her sister.
With her sister, yeah.
We don't know which one.
At this point, we still don't know.
But she's on the phone with her sister. Mm-hmm. There's a knock at the door. And she has these couple of quippy lines about going to get it, and like, I don't know who it is, and like she puts the phone down.
She's got her hair in rollers and a robe on.
And she like goes and opens the door, and it's Keenan.
Right.
And it's a surprise to the viewer.
Right.
And to Joan. Lets him in. She even does this kind of like little squeak about like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's here. And she literally grabs the phone and just hangs it up.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything to whoever she was talking to. She hangs it up.
No, because she says, let me wrap this up. She just hangs up the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and then
they basically reconcile in this scene. I won't go into like every single line of dialogue, but he explains that he wants to be with her, and she finally broke down his walls, and he says, this isn't going to be easy. My favorite line in the whole film, she's in tears because she's so happy that he's finally come around and warmed up to her, and she's in tears, and she kind of laughs to herself, and she says, no, it's not going to be easy, but that's okay. Super real line. Love that line.
Great line.
It's a great line. And they're the relationship that I invested in the most in this movie.
Yeah, I was really happy about how he finally told his story. How he it's a super emotional scene. How she was super accepting of it, and like no judgment,
no judging at all.
And there's parts of their relationship that they can't do like other people in other relationships. Right.
Well, let's talk about the specifics of that conversation, because I think that's probably the most pivotal moment in the film.
The way he tells her.
It's hard. It's tough.
I shared her
with everybody.
Man. Didn't realize that. But and they were sharing needles. Mm-hmm. And she
gave me something.
She gave me one last thing before she died.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That was my favorite scene because it was the most realistic.
The way that this is why I like Angelina Jolie. Because she can do all these big action movies. Mm-hmm. She can do all these, whatever other kind of movies. But this movie, I like her the most. I really do.
Okay.
Because of her range. Like, in that beginning of that scene, she's, like, being the weird, like, very big character. And then he obviously has something weighing on his heart.
Right.
That he's got to tell her. If they're going to continue this relationship, right? Which he didn't even really want to. Right.
Not at all.
Again, like to your point, very reluctant to do anything with anybody. Mm-hmm. And he's allowing her in.
Right.
On a tight string, like on a tight rope.
Yeah.
At length, letting her in.
Mm-hmm.
But then he decides to open up. And the way he says that scene, the beginning, she's being the big character, and then he says his piece, and then she like clams up and she stops drinking.
Yeah, she does.
She drops the glass, and the guy goes, that was funny. Mm-hmm. Like the way the waiter was like, oh, I'll get you another one. She's like, what was it? She was like, don't bother. She's like, scram, and he goes away finally. Mm-hmm. And Ryan's able to, and Ryan's very patient.
He is.
His character Keenan is very patient. He's very slow. And I mean, in other movies that I've seen him in, this again, to my point earlier, very different for him.
Right.
He hasn't been in a lot of movies.
No.
There's a movie he's in that I really like called The Way of the Gun.
It's a great movie.
You ever see that? Okay,
I did.
Cool. Really cool movie. Late 90s.
Well, the year before that, he's with Jennifer Love Hewitt in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah. He did some different roles, and then he's in this. And he hasn't really done much since then.
Well, he moved to TV. He did the TV version of Shooter, the Mark Wahlberg movie, which is also a really good show.
I haven't seen that, which he was in for a while.
Yeah.
Man, this scene was so emotional.
I'm not gonna lie, I had to kind of take a second and like really let it sink in. I couldn't move forward with the film because it was the first moment in the film where I actually felt like he was telling me personally the story, and I wasn't looking at Ryan Fleet the actor, but his character Keenan, yeah. And I was just sitting, man. It was
this
hard.
movie deals with real issues, right? Some like drug addiction and death, right? OD, sharing needles, sharing partners, homosexuality, AIDS,
having to come to terms with losing your spouse of 50-something years.
Yeah, infidelity in multiple levels, right? Multiple of I want to say, how good was mom and dad in teaching these kids how to love?
Right.
Like, not very good.
No, not at all.
They're renewing their vows. It may be because of how many years. People do that. We've reached this amount of years and we're going to renew our vows.
Yeah.
It may be because of his impending death, because he's got
part of it.
He's got brain cancer, right?
So his wife even makes a little quip about how, or maybe it's him. He says, "Yeah, when we got married before, we didn't have all this money to have a real ceremony. I wanted to give her a real ceremony, and I took that as my final gift. To her. She deserves a full ceremony, wedding. Let me get this to her before I go. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that Keenan scene. Like I said, I felt like I was there, and I was somebody he trusted with super private information.
Man.
Like you said, it completely disarms her.
I think she may have been the first person that he's ever told that story to.
It had to be.
Yeah.
That's not something you just, cavalierly tell anybody that you meet in a club. And
well, it's telling of you.
Right.
And it's telling of what's about to happen with me. Like if you're gonna want to date me, you need to know this.
Right.
Because I can't have sex with you.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And she, like you said, 100% no judgment, completely accepts him.
Yeah. So if I was looking at all these relationships, I think the one I believed the most was Keenan and Joan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
We've seen the affair. We've seen the infidelity. We've seen the other types of like budding relationships that don't work out or that do, whatever.
Right.
But they had a special bond.
They did.
A special relationship. And they ended up making it work and going further with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I totally didn't expect to happen.
I didn't either. I really thought, because as the movie progresses, he continues to shut down her advances. He's like, yeah, I'll hang out with you, but that's all it is.
Right.
And her character, much like Jon Stewart's character, very persistent, but not... Now, her character was a little more pushy and annoying in the beginning. Jon Stewart always kind of just played it cool.
Yeah.
But I warmed up to her in that specific scene. I warmed up to...
What just happened?
So I warmed up to her in that very specific scene.
Yeah.
Because that was, to me, the most real version of her we saw.
Yeah.
Because I kind of have a theory that her personality, her booming louder than life personality, is a defense mechanism. That's like how that's how she portrays herself to not feel vulnerable. But my stomach is...
Did you go to the bathroom?
No, I'm good.
You all right? I thought I was going to have to go to the bathroom.
No, I'm good.
Based on what I ate for lunch.
But no.
So was this your favorite scene?
Absolutely.
The scene we're talking about, Keenan and Joan?
And when he tells her what's really going on with him.
Yeah.
My favorite scene.
In the diner or whatever. Yeah, or I guess it wasn't a diner.
Well, it was a jazz club because there's jazz in the background.
That's what it was.
That's when she says the line.
Yeah.
But that's definitely my favorite scene.
That's my favorite scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like the wrap up and the bow at the end. I do. Because I that's kind of how I like conversations. That's kind of how I like. Life isn't like that.
Right, it's not. Absolutely.
And that's probably why I like it.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't always get the bows that I want to get in life, the tie up, the wrap up to the end.
Right.
And so when I see it on the big screen, I'm like, of course, I like that.
Absolutely.
I yearn for that.
I mean, I think that's why certain movies like this are made for people like you as a viewer who don't get the happy ending in your life, but you get to at least see it.
Yeah.
And okay, well, that kind of feeds your romanticism in a way.
Right.
Because like I said, you get to see it, so you can relate to characters and you would think, oh man, I wish that was me.
Yeah.
Da-da-da. But I don't like, this movie could have done without, to me, the Jay Moore, Ellen Burstyn scene.
So if you remove that completely, is it a different movie?
It is, because Jay Moore's character is revealed to be Gillian Anderson's ex-husband. So there's a moment in the film where she reveals to Jon Stewart why she doesn't want to be involved in anybody, because her ex-husband turned out to be gay.
Right.
And we find out close to the end, Jay Moore's character is that character, and he dies, and she gets the phone call, and obviously she's blindsided by the news, and her and Jon Stewart had just kind of started to get off on a good footing, and so she goes to this funeral,
which I gotta say, I like the element that it added because of the character development with John and Gillian.
Yeah,
their characters. She calls to check her messages. And he answers.
Because he's still at her place.
Well, no, he couldn't sleep at his place.
Okay, right.
And he was watching that weird burp. He was watching her dog, Bailey.
Right. It's a huge dog, by the way.
Yeah.
Scary, huge dog.
Which was weird for me because I dated I'm not going to say that.
No, say.
The last girl that I watched this with, her dog was named Bailey.
Oh.
No, her name... Never mind. That's incorrect. It's
okay.
It's Barley.
Okay.
Different. Anyways. Wow. Okay. She calls to check her messages. He answers the phone because he couldn't sleep at his house. And he went over to her house. And he's laying in her bed with Bailey.
Yeah.
And that whole cute little scene with him and Bailey, and like how they both kind of took the next step in the relationship.
Yeah, because she
kind of got serious.
She even says, "I just want to let you know I love you," and he says it back. And so I'm thinking this movie doesn't have much time pass.
Yeah.
From the beginning to end.
No, you're right.
So to drop the L word.
That early.
Yeah, and Angelina Jolie and Ryan Philippe, they say it also after the big reveal why he has been trying to be distant.
I want to say this movie takes place in over maybe a week.
That's what I thought too. A week, at most 10 days.
At most 10 days. Yeah.
So to drop the L word.
Leading up to that ceremony.
And I think back to past relationships when I've dropped the L word, it's always been 5-6 months in normally. Unless
the passage of time that was shown in that time-lapse shot was more than we think.
That's the only thing it could be.
I mean, that's the reason why that shot's there, to show passage of time. But I still think it was at least 10 days.
Because normally when you see time pass like that in a film, it's only the next day.
Right.
Because it goes from day to night, I think, every time.
This was I don't know, it's kind of stylized. I don't know. Yeah. So, overall thoughts?
I'll say 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it didn't wow me, but the script was really well done.
Yeah.
And I did really invest in certain characters' arcs. But it wasn't like the worst film either.
I would want to see more of the Gillian Anderson Jon Stewart relationship.
Okay.
And see kind of where that went more. So if I was to take a character out, I'd take 2 characters out. I would take their relationship out. And kind of see where that went. Even though I was more invested in the Keenan and Joan, I kind of see where that's gonna go.
Yeah,
because they're obviously in love, and that's kind of as far as that can progress, it's there.
Right.
But with Angelina Jolie, but with Gillian Anderson and Jon Stewart's characters, I kind of wanted to continue to see them in something else, or in that relationship progress. What about you?
I would just pick. I would pick just Joan by herself.
Oh.
pre-Keenan meeting.
Oh.
I want to see what led up to this breakup.
Yep.
How was the dynamic with her and the guy she broke up with?
And the one-eyed cat.
Yeah. The creepiest cat ever, by the way. Because they really got a one-eyed cat.
Yep.
Which wouldn't have been hard to do casting for a one-eyed cat.
It happens.
And it's LA. And
Yeah.
But because I have a feeling like her relationship before Keenan's was super tumultuous.
Yep.
Crazy, spiraling out of control really fast. So I'll pick her.
Really good role for Sean Connery. Really good role for all these actors. Like, it was just really well...
Except for Amanda Peet.
Oh, well, she didn't really do much. Really well acted, really well written. Could have been directed better. Most of John Barry's score was replaced with a new score by Christopher Young. Which Christopher Young's done some more recent films. Barry's credit on the movie was retained, however, and a CD was released with Barry's largely unused score.
Wow.
Which is interesting. I'm kind of interested in listening to that. This was the final movie to receive the 2 thumbs down from critics Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel.
Yep.
The final one they did. Just going to go through the rest of this trivia. Another of the working titles was If They Only Knew.
Hate it.
Which would have totally been a spoiler before you saw the movie.
Guess a play on words.
Yeah.
It's a play on words.
Chris Bodie was asked to play several songs for the movie.
It's Bodie.
Is it Bodie?
I'm a huge fan of his.
I am too.
Yeah.
I didn't know how you say his last name though. I'm bad at that. Chris Bodie was asked to play several songs for the movie, which you could totally hear his saxophone in the movie.
So that was him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Check this out. David Duchovny, Gillian Anderson's X-Files co-star, also appeared in a movie with Angelina Jolie where the first word in the title was playing God. In 2016, during an interview, after being asked about kissing Jon Stewart and David Duchovny, Gillian Anderson declared not remembering kissing Stewart, while she gave an 8 to Duchovny.
Ooh.
Didn't even remember kissing Jon Stewart.
In your face, Jon Stewart.
Obviously not a romantic comedy actor.
No.
Jon Stewart went on to do more comedy roles, really more political comedies.
Yeah.
Like with The Daily Show. But man, such a good role for him. I think he did a good job.
I thought so too. I wouldn't hang out with him, but he was cool.
Yeah. So to wrap this up, I think we said 7 out of 10. Both of us said a 7 out of 10. I would recommend it to our lady listeners. I think it's a good romantic comedy that you can put on, and watch with a guy on a date or whatever. Are you gonna watch this again?
I may try your theory out if I ever get a date.
I've seen it several times.
Check this one out.
Yeah, and I like to. I like to do it. I like to watch it with a girl to show her how
in tune with your emotions you are.
Exactly. Which I really, honestly, believe in emotional intelligence, and I'm trying to teach that to my son, and I think it's a very important thing. And so this is a way for me to show the girl I'm dating that's there.
Look at this guy, Dad of the Year. I'm telling you.
Come on,
man.
stop it. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
All right, guys.